Okay, so we're going to go over how to divide fractions, mixed numbers. We're going to multiply fractions and mixed numbers, and simplifying, putting fractions into their simplest form, and a couple of word problems. Okay, so number one, we have 9 4/5 divided by 5 and 1/11. These are mixed numbers. So before we do anything, we have to turn our mixed numbers into improper fractions. And we do that by saying 5 times 9 is 45. 45 plus 4 is 49. So we have 49 as our numerator, and always keep the denominator the same. Then we'll do the same with 5 and 1/11. We'll have 11 times 5 is 55, and 1 is 56. So we'll have 56 and keep the denominator the same. When you divide fractions only, you multiply by the reciprocal. We know it as keep, change, flip. So let's do that at this point. We keep this first fraction, change the division to multiplication, and we flip or multiply by the reciprocal. And now our multiplication equation is 49/5 times 11/56. At this point, you must simplify before you multiply. You go to the first numerator and look across to this denominator. Is there one number that goes evenly into 49 and 56? What is the greatest common factor? In this case, it's 7. 7 goes into 49 7 times. 56 divided by 7 is 8. Just keep it rolling. One moment. One moment. This time we get a spare pencil. All right. So now that you had a chance to look at it and think about the greatest common factor, now I'll go here, and 56 divided by 7 is 8. So now I have 7/5 over 11/8, and I'll look at the 11 and the 5. There is no common factor between 11 and 5, so I just leave it. And my new problem becomes 7 over 5 times 11 over 8. And that becomes 77 over 40. Improper fraction, simplify or turn back into a mixed number by dividing. The numerator always goes in the house. 40 goes into 77 one time. Put the 1 over the 7, the second 7. And you have 37 left over, so it's 1 and 37/40. 37/40 is in its simplest form. There is no common factor. So that would be how to divide mixed numbers. So let's try one more, and we'll move a little quicker because you should understand the steps. So we have 7 1/3 divided by 5 1/2. First step, turn into an improper fraction. 22 over 3. 11 over 2. Second step, keep, change, flip, or multiply by the reciprocal of 11 over 2, which is 2 over 11. Third step, simplify before you multiply. What's one number that goes evenly into 22 and 11? 11. 11 divided by 11, 1. 22 divided by 11, 2. So now our new problem becomes 2/3 times 2 over 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. Improper fraction, divide, turn it back into a mixed number. The numerator goes in the house. 3 goes into 4 once. 4 minus 3 is 1. The remainder now becomes your new numerator, and it would be 1 and 1/3. So the following are the steps: mixed number, turn improper, keep, change, flip, multiply by the reciprocal, then simplify. After you've simplified, your multiplication, multiply your numerators, multiply your denominators. So those are the first two that we have. And let's go to recognizing the greatest common factor, which is what we use for simplifying a fraction. So let's say we have 18 and 24. And we want to simplify the fraction 18/24. First, we establish what's the greatest common factor. This is to simplify a fraction. Well, let's get the factors of 18 and 24. And we should know very quickly, we have 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. So when we look for the greatest common factor, well, 1 is always, 2, yes, 3, yes, but the greatest common factor is 6. So the GCF is 6. Now let's use the GCF to come back up over here and simplify. How do we do that? We divide both numbers by the GCF. 18 divided by 6 is 3, and 24 divided by 6 is 4. So 18/24 in its simplest form is 3/4. Let's do a word problem, because that's the toughest thing. How do I know, first off, that it's division? And then secondly, how do I know which number is the numerator, or which number is the dividend, and which number is the divisor? Well, again, division gives you the total, and it divides it into equal parts, and you'll figure out how much each one is. Multiplication will ask you for the total. It'll give you how many parts and how much each one is, parts and how much each one is, and ask you for the total. So whenever they give you the total and ask you to divide it into parts, that's division. So let's see what this particular problem says. I'm going to read it out loud. Jackson wants to divide a 2/5 pound box of trail mix into small bags. Each of the bags will hold 1/10 of a pound of trail mix. How many bags of trail mix can Jackson fill? So now, if we look at it, Jackson wants to divide 2/5 pound box of trail mix. So in other words, he's sitting there, he's got a box of trail mix, and he wants to divide it into smaller bags. And each bag is going to be 1/10 of a pound. So they tell you the total. We're dividing the trail mix, 2/5 of a pound, and we're dividing it equally into bags that are 1/10 of a pound. How many bags, if I took a scooper, and the scooper was 1/10 of a pound, that's how much it scooped each time, how many scoops, if I went into the total, would it take to get 2/5 of a pound into bags? So how many bags can I make? So I'm going to keep, change, and flip. The 2 and 1 is already simplified. The 5 and 10, 5 goes into 5 once. 10 divided by 5 is twice, and I get 4 over 1, or I get 4 bags. So I can have 4 bags of trail mix, 1/10 of a pound each, and that'll give you 2/5 of a pound. So let's look at another problem. Again, another word problem. Let's just go over it and identify. A ribbon is 3 2/3 yards long. May needs to cut the ribbon into pieces that are 2/3 of a yard long. How many pieces of ribbon can she cut? So again, they give you the total length of the ribbon, and they're going to be cut equally into 2/3 of a yard. How many pieces of ribbon could she have, or will she have? So 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11 thirds, divided by 2/3. Keep, change, multiply by the reciprocal, which is the flip, and the 3's become 1's, and I get 11 times 1 is 11, 1 times 2 is 2. Improper fraction again. This becomes, the numerator goes in the house, 2 goes into 11, 5 times 2 is 10. My remainder becomes my new numerator. Always keep the denominator the same. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11 over 2. So the answer is, you may find how many pieces of ribbon can she cut? You could cut 5.5 pieces, but the truth of the matter is she's only going to cut 5 pieces, but we'll accept 5.5. But she only could cut 5 pieces. Okay. Next is a little tricky. 4 people share 2/9 of a pound of peanuts equally. What fraction of a pound of peanuts does each person receive? So anytime they give you the total and ask how much each person gets, it's division. But you have to understand this particular problem is different because they give you the 4 people first and the 2/9 last. But division says, what's the total that we're going to divide equally? Well, we're not going to divide our 4 friends up. That's not what we're doing. We're dividing the peanuts up equally amongst my 4 friends. So 2/9 divided equally into 4 parts. How much is each part or each friend going to get? Well, first, let's turn that into an improper fraction by just simply putting it over 1. 2/9, keep, change, flip. Now, this becomes a 1, and this becomes a 2 because 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and I get 1 times 1 is 1, and 9 times 2 is 18. So the answer is each friend gets 1/18 of a pound. Okay, I'm going to move down to simplifying, and I'm going to do just plain multiplication, 3/8 times 4/5. Now I could, because the numbers are small, I could say 3 times 4 and 8 times 5, which would be 12 over 40, and then figure out what is the greatest common factor or any factor. Or I could do the following. I could look at the 3 and the 5 and say, hey, I can't simplify. It's in simplest form. 3 and 5 do not have common factors aside from 1. But if I look at the 4 and the 8, what number goes evenly into 4 and 8? Yes, 2 does, but 4 also does. So let's divide by 4. And 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So now I've simplified to 3 times 1 and 2 times 5, and I get 3 over 10. And it's that simple, because if I had to here, I could divide the greatest common factor between 12 and 40 is 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 40 divided by 4 is 10. But this is an extra step when I could do it with the smaller numbers here before I multiply. Let's try another one with larger numbers. 7/20 times 16 over 21. Now I look at this and I really don't want to do 17 times 16 and 20 times 21 and start to simplify it because the numbers are large. So let's look at the 7 and 21. What number goes evenly into 7 and 21? 7. Divide both numbers by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 21 divided by 7 is 3. Now I go to these two right here. What number goes evenly into 16 and 20? Well, 2 does. 2 times 8 and 2 times 10. 4 does. 4 times 4 and 4 times 5. So let's use 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And let's see what we got. 1 times 4 and 5 times 3. 4/15. And that's the answer.